Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of an amazing gentleman. I know a lot of you sometimes ask Gertrude, why are you bringing men onto the platform? And I've always said to you, until we start bringing men into the rooms where we discuss our issues, nothing much will change for the condition of women. The man we'll be talking to today is an amazing physician, a chef, a health coach, and a speaker who's dedicated to refining and redefining medicine through compassion, prevention, and community. He's inspired by his mother's journey as an immigrant and a traditional healer. Colin combines Western medicine with culinary expertise and lifestyle coaching to show that food, connection, and daily choices are powerful forms of healing. So welcome to the tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Colin Zhu. Thank you so much for having me on. I am from the United States, originally from the state of New Jersey, but here based in California. My story begins actually with a story that I would like to share from my personal side. Is during the summer of 2019, me and my family, the four of us, my mother, my father, and my young sister, we had traveled to Hawaii to plan a family holiday, family vacation. And one of the great passions that I have is scuba diving. Prior to this, my sister had just finished her certification and wanted to hop on board to share that passion with me, her older brother. Pretty much after the training, we went on the boat. Conditions were serene, perfect. Instructions, the dive captain, the boat captain, the dive master, everything was great leading up to the dive. Before this, my sister was very anxious. She was a little bit trepidatious and hesitant because of the fact that her entire gear, the prep before it, gave her a lot of angst. She was afraid that she wasn't going to be prepared enough. Since we dove, we went down to the bottom around 70 feet, and we were the last divers to get off the boat. She started to struggle. And basically, as we were down there, which took no more than 3 or 4 minutes, I could tell that she was having difficulty with her regulator, her device to be able to breathe. Very quickly, the dive master turned around, came back through the water, and took over and helped her. And little did I know, they started floating up to the surface. It was very clear, clear day, clear waters, clear visibility. And then I saw that my sister, her body just went limp. Got up to the boat, and basically she laid lifeless on the boat. So I share the story because when we're battling with illness, when we're having a personal health journey, struggle, emotional struggle, a lot of times we're facing this alone. In terms of the word illness, there's only the word I in illness. But in the word wellness, there's the word we. And so I will share why that's important in a second. My journey started with the story of my mother. She is a traditional Chinese medicine physician. Growing up under her wing, she taught me the values of compassion, authenticity, integrity, and really looking at the person in a very holistic manner. She was an entrepreneur. She was the front of the office, the back of the office, the secretary, the phones, the janitor, and the physician. So she taught me a lot of lessons. That brought me into medicine in medical school, where we saw everyone from coming into the office as a cough or low back pain or high blood pressure. And no matter who I saw, they always had some sort of chronic lifestyle risk factor attached to them, whether carrying extra weight, high sugars, diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, like I mentioned. And so at that time, I didn't have enough tools in my tool belt to be able to combat this. 70% of medical schools in America are actually funded by big pharmaceutical companies. And so I said to myself, how do I gain these tools to be able to help the public, where the top 2 causes of death year after year after year has always been heart disease and cancer. More than half of the top 10 killers of Americans are diet and lifestyle related. And yet doctors are ill-equipped. Doctors are not confident to convey information. And so I took all that experience and I went into culinary school and then got certified in health coaching. And from that, I up-leveled my skill set and education to publicly speak, to be able to hold workshops, demonstrations, to content create. I created a platform called the Chef Doc, where I can worldwide be able to have education and resources that people can come to. Our healthcare system is very broken. It's a corporate machine, very inefficient, and patients are left with a lot more questions than they had in the beginning. And a lot of times they still fall ill and pass away from diseases that are very largely preventable. If you're able to optimize your health, move your body, and actually stop smoking, you can prevent up to 80% of chronic disease. And so all that to say, I was able to go beyond food, nutrition. I was able to learn more about food. I was able to learn about where food came from, how it ends up to your plate, how we're disconnected in all those different mile markers leading up to your plate, and how our food and lifestyle choices affect not just our health ecosystem, but also our community ecosystem, as well as the planetary ecosystem. A lot of how we process livestock, animal agriculture largely contributes to our health, creates greenhouse emissions, contributes largely to climate change, more than 15%, greater than the transportation sector. In terms of our healthcare expenditures, we spend upwards of 4.9 trillion, which is larger than the Japanese economy, and yet Japan's actually lives 7 years longer than us, and they pay 60% less. After studying all this, the blue zones, where the longest living people live on Earth, I realized that it's not just food, but the whole package, in addition to your community and how we connect with ourselves, with others, and our land. And so coming back to illness and wellness, there's a reason why the word we is in well-being. There's a reason why the we is in wellness. And so health and longevity, lifespan, health span is really a collective team collaborative effort. And there is a African proverb that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you do it together. So whether you are a patient, whether you're a healthcare professional, it really takes the whole team. It really takes the whole village. It really takes a community for us to have better health. So, and I bring it back to my sister. She actually drowned that day, and she actually miraculously came back with the help of the dive master, a stranger diver that came with us who was a Canadian nurse, and the boat captain. And she lives till this day, thriving. And she reminds me every day, in addition to all my patients that I've seen over the years, that health is really a collective effort. We need all of us to be able to interconnect mind, body, spirit, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's a collective effort. So the power of we is so important. So that's my story. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much, Colin. Your story is absolutely incredible. What really drew me to your story was my own personal health challenges, having collapsed with congestive heart failure at the age of 49. And now, in the last 7 years, learning that our food is really our medicine. But a lot of times we don't realize it. We're eating unconsciously. We consume food, not really thinking about the impact that it has on our bodies. Now, you had a brush with death, the moment that your sister almost drowned. What did that moment teach you about the fragility of life?
Similarly to the pandemic, it's very fragile. It can go away in a second. Even being a healthcare professional, I faced many moments of death with patients with different heart dysarrhythmias, heart attacks, strokes, cancer, and I had to hold her hand. I had to be able to look them in the eye, be able to hold myself, hold my composure. With my sister, it was different. I went into a state of shock. I felt that my body was really just paralyzing. And so it was a very, very surreal experience that really taught me about not just my mortality, but just how fragile life is. And so it's very important to not take things for granted, to be able to live in a very grateful state. And we all face stress. We all face challenges, struggles, and trauma. It's really about how well we surf. You're in Melbourne, right? Which is one of, the capitals of surfing. And so I use a lot of surfing analogies. And it's really about, life comes at you in small ways, large ways, and tidal ways, right? So life is really about making sure that you surf well. You're going to be knocked off, but making sure that you get back up more times that you get knocked off. So it's really about persistence. And again, going back to the I versus we, make sure that you have support. Make sure that, you don't be afraid. Don't be scared to ask for help. I think a lot of times in Western civilizations, we're conditioned to not ask for help. And that is so far beyond the truth, because we need each other. We're social beings. So
that is so true. So what role did the strangers, the captain, the nurse, and the people who acted play in redefining your understanding of we?
We, not in terms of just numbers and a collaborative effort, but also we, to the point where I believe that everyone is born with decency. I really believe that people are born with an innate kindness to them. And I also believe that fear and hate are taught and conditioned through society, through history, through different, just through man itself, just being in a fearful state. We actually talked about this offline. And so it taught me about decency. It taught me about caring for your fellow man or woman. That it doesn't matter what we look like on the outside. It's understanding that when someone else is struggling, it's a reflection of yourself, because we struggle as well. So everything is a mirror. Our external world is a mirror to our internal world.
That is so true. So let's go back to your mother's story and her journey as an immigrant. How did it shape your philosophy of resilience and health?
Hmm. Well, my mother is originally from Hong Kong. She was born in the late 40s, and she lived through and survived through something called the Cultural Revolution. And that took place between the mid 60s to the mid 70s. And it's almost like the equivalent of the Holocaust. There was a huge genocide because there's so much history and a lot of burning of documentation, photographs, things like that, because of the, at that time, political regime. A lot of things were lost, but estimates of 500,000 to upwards of 2 million lives were lost. And so my mother, she survived and lived through famine. She was thrown in jail. She saw people, hung from trees. She was one of 6, so she had to take care of her siblings. It's amazing that she survived, to be honest, and for her to be here and to still thrive as a healthcare practitioner, as a healer, teaches so much about resilience just by her life example. And so, again, it reminds us of what we have especially in the Western civilizations. As an American, I do not take for granted the life that I was given by my parents. And I do my best to be able to give back as much as possible. So
that's amazing. Now, in your view, why does the American healthcare system fail to address the root causes of illnesses right now?
Honestly, it sums it up. It's because of their addiction to greed and power, for profits. For profits and power, essentially. We're a capitalist society. We're run by corporations, and the deeper our pockets, seemingly the more that we want. And like any addiction, there's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. There's no satiation from it. No human being needs to live with that amount of wealth. In this year of 2025, there's been a humongous transfer of wealth from the bottom half of the economic classes, socioeconomic classes, to the upper half. And so we're witnessing in our American history the largest transfer of wealth. And so you have a lot of issues. You have social disparities continuing to widen. You have health disparities continuing to widen. And so, it's incredible to watch, not in a good way. And so it's really about prioritizing profit over people. There's no money to be made if you are healthy. There's a lot of money to be made when you are sick. And so the corporate healthcare machine, is set up in a way where they just want you to be healthy. Like I said before, even from the start, 70% of medical schools are funded by pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
So majority of our curriculum is, how does drugs work and how does disease manifest? Very, very small, if any. It's getting better now, but very small is dedicated towards nutrition, self-care, diet, and lifestyle. And so, like I said, I recognized the issue. I had to make a lot of detours, whereas majority of physicians do not. That's changing. I'm happy to say that is changing, but we have a long way to go, with our healthcare system.
Yeah. Now, when I lived in Albuquerque and in Pittsburgh, I witnessed the food deserts that exist in America, especially in the low socioeconomic neighborhoods. The lack of supermarkets where you can buy fresh produce. families being forced to eat out of cans, canned food, the number of takeaway food outlets that are in those communities. And I'm seeing it here in Australia as well, that the poorer people are, the less they have access to fresh produce. So through your work as a culinary expert, how did going to culinary school expand your understanding of healing?
I'll address the first point first because it's very multi-layer. Food deserts, food access is not random. That is born out of systemic racism, and really, a lot of marginalized communities were placed comparatively to white and Caucasian communities in strategic locations, over the United States. And because of that, their access to high quality supermarkets and groceries is not random. That's set up on purpose. And so that I addressed that, point. So that's a very political, very it's very multi-layer.
Yeah.
In terms of the culinary experience, that really taught me really what real food is. And when I address this with patients, I teach them that in a supermarket, in a grocery store, more than 70 to 80% of the market is processed foods.
Yes.
So the two biggest contributors to chronic disease in our country is our overconsumption of animal-based, sources, and our overconsumption of ultra-processed foods. What does ultra-processed mean? Ultra-processed means that whatever Mother Nature intended it is real food. So if it didn't grow out of the vine, off of a tree, or off of the ground, it's manipulated in some way. Man has manipulated it. So it goes from processed to ultra processed. An example would be whole grains, right? Whole wheat, right? And then ultra processed is cereal, right? In a box. Okay, so that's one spectrum, right? And so the culinary experience, going to school, really taught me what real food is, how to prepare it, how to use all five senses, right? And being able to cook it for yourself and cook it with others. So it's very multi-layer in terms of not just the foodie experience, but also in terms of what does real food mean? And also when it's not real food, like ultra-processed food, how much it alters our palate, how much it alters our taste buds. And that leads to another pathway of disease. So that's what it taught me.
Wow. There's so many layers to it. It's quite complex. So what are the three biggest myths about health that you want to disrupt?
I would say the biggest myth is really protein. That protein is only associated or only comes from animals. Here in America, we don't have a protein deficiency. And yet we are obsessed with protein, right? Through the health and wellness industry, through the fitness industry, through the sports industry, through the bodybuilding industry. We're conditioned historically to always just get protein. And so what that does is that we overconsume, and it leads to multi-layer issues, right? And so the biggest myth is protein is actually originally from the ground. And the trick is that you need to get a variety and a diversity of plant food to be able to get all your essential and non-essential amino acids. And a protein from an animal versus a protein from a plant is packaged differently. Okay. So it's, I want people to understand that the package matters, not the protein itself, but the package, right? So animals not just comes with protein, but it comes with inflammation. It comes with a lot of oxidative stress. So like rust to a car. And then also how we process animals in this country is it comes with hormones, it comes with steroids, it comes with antibiotics. Whereas a protein coming from a plant comes with minerals, vitamins, phytonutrients, antioxidants, fiber. We have a fiber deficiency in America, not a protein deficiency. And I would probably argue in other Western civilizations as well, like Australia, you probably have that same issue. That's just the first one. Second one is you don't get enough nutrition from, plants. You do. There are a lot of civilizations like the blue zones that pretty much predominantly eat plants. In fact, 60, 70, 80% of their daily intake comes from plants in the form comes from plants, mostly carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, mostly from actual real whole food plants. All right. And so you can live a thriving life. And the third point I want to make for people is that it does contribute to climate change. Animal agriculture and our overconsumption of animals does contribute to climate change and greenhouse gases. Last year, we lived through the hottest year of our history. And so we're not making much headway in terms of, being able to move that needle for new generations to live on a sustainable planet. And so the problem with animal agriculture is that you have to take up a lot of land. You have to take up a lot of water. Okay. 1 pound of beef takes 1,800 gallons of water to be able to produce 1 pound of beef. That is the equivalent of turning on your faucet and running your faucet for more than 20 hours.
Jeez.
That's 1 pound of beef.
Crazy.
The average American eats over 200 pounds of beef a year. Okay. So it has ripple effects. So even if we do not talk about nutrition, it has community ripple effects. It has planetary ripple effects. Everything interconnects with everything, just like COVID did, right? No matter what you said, didn't say, do, or didn't do, COVID infected or affected everyone. Okay. So that's what I want your listeners to understand.
Wow. Now, why is prevention more powerful than treatment in creating long-term wellness?
Well, if you ever visited the emergency room or a hospital or the intensive care unit, you'll know that you do not want to be there. In America, we're one of the very last Western societies to have universal health care. Political battles with ourselves. So what ends up happening is that it ends up becoming very, very, very costly to be able to travel to a hospital. So prevention is the most important thing. However, it's not attractive. It's not sexy. It's not, and it takes work. It takes repetition. It takes accountability. So it just doesn't sell. What sells more is quick fixes and convenience, right? Biohacking. Let me, take this and take that. That's the reason why. So, but prevention is the long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about the long game. You'll reap the benefits, in the long term, just like wealth, right? Wealth, you get your dividends in the long term. Relationships need time to develop, and also good food needs time to develop. So, same concept.
Otherwise, we're just putting a Band-Aid on the issues. We're not really solving the problems that we are encountering in the world. Now, how can individuals apply your framework of live the example, play the long game, and do it together in daily life?
It starts with you. Everything is whittled down to behavior change your lifestyle. And that makes time, to be able to become a routine, to be able to be ingrained, right? You don't just play the piano overnight. You don't just ride the bicycle overnight. That takes repetition. So it's the same thing. So start with what you know, right? If you're wanting to incorporate more, veggies and fruits and things like that, start with what you know, and then expand outwardly. We have social media, we have YouTube, right? Just type in plant forward, plant predominant, whole food, plant-based, vegan recipe, into the internet, into the search engine, and you'll get a plethora of things you can follow. Start with one recipe or one vegetable, one fruit a week, and then just do a new one the next week. And by the end of 52 weeks, guess what? You have 52 recipes under your belt. You have 52 new vegetables and fruits under your belt. You have to start small. And then with the power of we, have a accountability partner, right? Call on someone else that's going through the same struggle, right? And you'll get better because you keep yourself accountable. And it's, playing the long game and living by example. So once you take care of yourself, you can be a better provider for someone else, whether it's a father, a mother, a wife, a sister, you're a community member, you're a healthcare professional. You can be a better member of society if you can take care of yourself, right? Because that's what COVID taught us. It taught us that it doesn't matter if you're a homeless person on the street or if you're a billionaire CEO, your health stops you. Point blank. It doesn't matter who you are on this planet, it will stop you. So health is wealth, right? So, you have to prioritize your health, and it starts with you.
That is so true. Now, let's end our interview with two last questions, which are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first one, I'm going to teleport you back to the younger you, the young man who went into the realm of medicine, wanting to help people and families with healthcare. If you could go back and give yourself 3 nuggets of wisdom, based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
So 3 nuggets of wisdom to my younger self, if I can go back in time, is just start. Whether it's a goal, a dream, something that I want to achieve, just don't be afraid. A lot of us go through analysis paralysis and we overthink things. Just start, just take the first step. The first step to any 10,000 step journey starts with the first one. And I'm a runner, so it's very, very analogous to what I do. And so you're going to have the bumps, you're going to have the obstacles, you're going to have the challenges. So just one step after another, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. The second is being able to not be afraid of being yourself. And so what I mean by that is we're here for a very, very short time. And from my experience, it's more gratifying to be able to speak your truth. It's more gratifying to be as authentic as possible. And it's very, very important to be able to express yourself. One of the great freedoms that we have as an American is our freedom to speak and being able to speak, whatever we want. And unfortunately, that's being tested literally as we speak. So it's very important to be as authentic as possible and to speak your truth. And I would encourage you to kind of not follow the herd a little bit and, stand out, take the detour, go on the road less traveled, and you'll be surprised on where you end up. And thirdly is train my mind to be in a grateful state. We are human. The totality of all of our emotions is with us. So whether we're happy, we're excited, we're content, we're also can be angry, we can be furious, we can be jealous. But guess what? That's all that comes into the package of being human. But if we can practice being in gratitude, we can't be, for example, grateful and angry at the same time. So over time, we can train ourselves to be more in a positive mindset. A negative mindset is also accumulation of repetition. So we need to be able to train ourselves from going from negative to positive. And in the world that we live today, we need that more than ever. So those are the three things that I would teach myself.
Absolutely wonderful tips. The last one is futuristic, and I'm going to teleport you into the future this time. And we are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. And maybe he's sitting in his rocking chair, surrounded by your family, your dogs, your cats, whoever's with you at the end. Or with science and technology and the way you're eating, you'll probably be on a dance floor somewhere or climbing a mountain. So if I could teleport you into the future to meet this wise man who has led you up until this point, whose work has had a major impact, not just on your own health, but on humanity in general, what will you say to him when you finally meet him?
I would hopefully ask a question, whether if I meet my 90-year-old version, I hope that I'm still scuba diving by then and still exploring. I would probably ask them a question in terms of, have I lived my life without any regrets? Have I done all that I can to be able to be of service and contribute to society? And did I leave anything worthwhile in terms of my family and in terms of the work of leaving behind a legacy? So those are the things that I would ask him. And I probably would just say, just thank you to my future self, and knowing that I have a lot more work ahead of me and there's a lot more to do. But at the same time, being able to be in the mindset of continuing to live my life and be present in the moment, and to still absorb as much zest out of life as much as possible. So I would probably just say thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. I love asking people that last question, Colin, because a lot of people don't realize that the wisdom, the wise woman, the wise man is already in us, that it's that quiet voice that tells you to go left, go right, say yes, say no, advocate. But sometimes we don't trust the voice. So I thank you for listening to your promptings, for making a difference and leaving a ripple effect. Your work has got a ripple effect. There's quite a few people who've been chiming in to the podcast as we've been talking. I can see Quentin is here in Melbourne. I have just recently met Quentin. He says it's very, very inspiring what you're sharing. I have somebody else, Alex, is also chiming in, saying that it's a beautiful post. So I had posted a few things you had said when we met the first time with the podcast. He's also agreeing that true health and healing comes from community, connection, and supporting each other. So thank you, Alex, for chiming in on Facebook. So I'll end the podcast with an African quote, since you started with an African quote. The quote is, in my mother tongue, ukama igasha nosungwane chikafu. And it basically means friendships are like fabric that are bound together with the breaking of bread. So until you sit with another human being and cook a home-cooked meal and break bread, you're not really friends. So I think we all need to remember to go back to these very simple, basic principles of life. Don't eat alone. If you're in a cafeteria, go and sit with a random stranger and strike up a conversation. Remember to cook with your family and make cooking an experience. You know, I've been cyber stalking you. I went on your Instagram. I've seen you and your family, your community, sharing food. These are the things that are so simple in life that we need to remember. So I really thank you for coming online today and reminding our community of these beautiful lessons that you've shared today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of people from all over the world. We share these stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are somebody who is having a health challenge, eat consciously. Try to go to a plant-based diet. Your food is your medicine, but don't try and do it alone. There's communities. Colin has created an amazing community that you can tap into online. You can find him all over the internet, on Instagram, Google the Chef Doc, and join a community of people who are already doing it so that it's easy for you as well. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Colin, thanks again for this amazing interview.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.